Taking out options on either property or land is quite a common thing, and if you'd like to know a little bit more on the outline of how an option works and when to use one, then here is a few minutes on option agreements.
Okay, fine. Right, so I appreciate probably a lot understand what an option agreement is, but let's just go back to basics. So an option agreement is basically what it says. It's an option that you enter into with the landowner, and the option is you either buy the land or you don't buy the land. There's no obligation on you to actually buy the property or buy the land or buy the building. So a typical scenario would be you find a plot of land that you think's got some sort of development potential. So a plot of land, a bungalow, a derelict pub, but you don't want to go in straight away and put your 10% deposit down, because you want to run some inquiries with the local council. You want to see actually what you could get there, because you want to make sure that behind your development there's actually money in there, so it's a feasible commercial proposition. What you would do is you would go in and you'd say to the landowner, I will buy this for X price, and it could be the price that they're marketing it for. So I will give you the money that you want, but you need to give me time to go and make my inquiries with the local authority about what I could potentially get. I mean, you get some of my clients that will run soil tests on the land to see exactly what's there. They might do some intrusive surveys. So these are big developers that will look at the actual fabric of the land as well, because that will give you some idea of the construction cost. So we go in and we say, okay, fine, we're going to enter into an option and we're going to pay you £1, and we need 12 months during the option period. So the option period is the time from when you enter the option to when you have to serve the option notice. And then when you are ready to actually, when you've decided whether or not you want to go ahead, you basically serve an option notice, and the option notice says, yes, I would like to exercise the option to buy the land, and at that point is when you actually exchange contracts for the purchase of the land, and then you'll set a completion date. Some clients that will ask me, well, look, 12 months is not enough. What happens if the planning officers take longer? What happens if I actually get planning permission but it's not what I want to apply for? I need to reapply. So what we can do is we can actually have something in the option agreement that extends the time period. So we can set out maybe 5 or 6 scenarios where we need to extend the option period. So like we went in for 12 months initially, we could say, well, actually, if we hit these scenarios, then we're allowed an additional 6 months. And the scenarios could be where planning is refused, and is subject to an appeal. You don't get the planning permission that you want, and sometimes people specify in the option agreement that they're trying to apply for 9 flats, but the local authority might only give them 6 or 7, because the scheme's
but it does only give them the option to buy, not the obligation, whereas the actual seller has to sell it to them if they want to proceed with it. Now, I think you're doing one for one of my clients at the moment that we've been talking about, where we twiddled it a little bit to make the vendor feel a bit more comfortable, to say, look, normally we'd need 8 weeks to 12 weeks to submit the drawings, and then the government website for the local council says that they'll turn it around in 12 weeks, and then we need another 8 weeks to raise finance once we've got planning. However, if the council take longer, then our contract provisions for that extra time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I'd like to say as well with that, every agreement is different, and sometimes clients or people that are getting into this kind of think, okay, look, there's just one set of heads of terms, but there's not, because every deal is different. and every buyer and every seller is different. So if there are terms that you want to negotiate with the seller, then put those forward. Like, don't be scared. You don't. There's no one set of contents in an option agreement. We could have whatever we want. I mean, I've had clients that like I said, that have been given the possibility of doing soil tests, and soil tests are quite intrusive, where they actually either they drill holes in 8 or 9 pieces of the land to establish exactly where the water table is, what soil there is, there clay there and stuff, and then you've got some sellers that actually want nothing to be done on their land until there's been an exchange of contracts. So every deal is different, and all the terms are different as well.
Yeah, it is always a negotiation, isn't it? And normally for me with my clients, it's about keeping them in their comfort zone, because they don't want a 2-year option, but they're happy for like a 6-month one. But if we word it in a certain way, it provisions in case it runs longer.